What's going on, you elaborate schemes? I'm Drake Vegas, and you're watching Dentally Challenged, a gaming challenge channel about teeth. But before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to Paul of Mitten Squad, because he's very important to me. You see, a little while ago, Paul did what my dad did to my mom, but to his liver, like my dad. And now he's in health jail, and I want to do something really special for Paul, everyone. To quote him, they had to put me in arm and leg restraints, put me in a diaper, which was incredibly humiliating as a 26-year-old. It was a whole ordeal. And you know what, Paul? Me too. So here's what I want everybody to do. Go get a diaper on right now in solidarity for Paul. Use the hashtag #PampForPaul and tell your best Paul story that you have about Paul, any Paul. And if you don't have a diaper to put on, find one. This is a threat. And in honor of hashtag #PampForPaul, I am not taking this diaper off until this video is recorded, edited, and uploaded. It's not coming off. I don't care how long it takes. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 years, it's staying on until it's uploaded. That's how serious I am about this. #PampForPaul, everyone. Okay, so upon looking it up, Paul has been out of the hospital for the past 5 days. I have to go to a special store to buy these, and they're really fucking expensive. Like, Jesus Christ, Paul got to go to the hospital and wear a diaper? That's what 1.3 million subs looks like. Okay, so he got out of the hospital 5 days ago, but it doesn't say that he ever took the diaper off, so we can all still wear diapers in solidarity for Paul, and we're going to. You think I'm fucking joking? I'm not. This is happening. Hashtag #PampForPaul. Everybody's first Oblivion playthrough is exactly the same, in the sense that there's a point where you turn the difficulty down. But why? As you level up, the world levels up around you. Everyone else's health, damage, and equipment get better to match the player's strength and create a difficulty curve. And if you don't submit yourself to that curve, or know how, or know that you're supposed to, you're fucked. I've done some pretty modest playthroughs at the default difficulty where I need to carry extra weapons around because the people I'm fighting outlive the weapons I'm using. What I'm trying to say is Oblivion scaling is shit, and I'm gonna eat shit in front of a camera. I'm going to beat Oblivion on the highest possible difficulty, and because I don't want to carry 10 swords around with me, I'm going to do it without using any equipment at all. The game prompted me to give birth to myself in jail. I chose Paul as my race, since he gets a +50 to Magicka, and there's no way I'm doing anything but a magic build. I removed all of the useless equipment the game starts you with. This doesn't count. You wouldn't say that someone isn't naked just because they were born with skin, would you? I stood naked and vulnerable with my back to the wall, while the police judged me. Patrick Stewart used the oldest pickup line in the book, then we headed down into the big jail cave as a prank. Captain Raynault identified an aquatic mammal.
This is a fish.
We were ambushed by the Humans Against Monsters cult. I can do very little to actually help, so I just watch the weebs do their funny little weeb things. We split up and the challenge finally showed its teeth. If I play optimally, each Biggle Rat would take over a minute to kill, but I die when they hit me 6 times. I never thought for a moment that I wouldn't run or sneak past most encounters, but several points throughout the game require you to fight. And when that happens, it won't be against Biggle Rats. It'll be against tough enemies, meant for a harder encounter. I could mitigate that by getting really into conjuration, but I feel like summoning and then hiding would defeat the purpose of the challenge. So when that happens, it'll be me against the world, and my blood and bones will be made of sand. My strat for the entire tutorial was just to sneak until someone saw me, and then just fucking bolt. Later on, I didn't even sneak, I just ran. I caught up to the Patty Squad just in time to choose my birthday. I chose Wizard because it made sense at the time. I got real excited when the Weeb Squad told me to hang out with Patrick Stewart while they went to the corner store to get 2 cans of NOS Energy for $4.50. I tried to body block the assassin that kills him, not because I wanted to save him, but because watching the assassin slowly approach him swinging madly while he just stands completely still only to flop over when he gets hit once is really funny. I said goodbye to Glenroy, then told Boris what my major skills were. I prioritized getting bonuses to skills I thought I'd be using, so I chose Alchemy in case I needed to make money, Destruction to deal extra damage, Hand-to-Hand because I'm optimistic, Restoration and Sneak to survive, and Illusion and Alteration to start out with extra spells. Those spells were not useful. Boris told me that my fire wasn't smart, even though it's literally magic. I got through the sewers. I edited my race so that I could turn time into a flat circle and make Paul look through every direction of it, and then the real game began. Just like everyone who plays Oblivion, I immediately went straight to Jeffrey to begin the main quest. He told me to find the Emperor's heir, even though I told him that the Emperor doesn't breathe anymore. This guy chased me, which really freaked me out, so I led him straight to the Oblivion Gate, as a prank. I got into a fight with the weakest of all the Daedra, and saw that his health only visibly decreases every 2 shots. I think this was around the time where I decided not to fight anything unless I had no other choice. Found Sean Bean. He told me that he can't leave while Hell is over there, so I'll have to get rid of it. So I headed straight to Hell, then set off to make Hell somewhere else. I stole a smooch from a crispy boy. For the most part, nothing really happened here. If there was something to comment on, I ran past it, unless shit like this happened. That actually scared the fuck out of me. So yeah, mostly just circle strafing while healing to run past them, followed by running past them. And then this big fuck happened. This was the first substantial roadblock in the run. I need a key that he has, and there's only one way to get it from him. Cheating. For the most part, I was just abusing his pathfinding so he couldn't get close enough to hit me. I eventually found ways to make it pretty consistent, since enemies in this game don't jump literally ever. Timing my shots is always a pain in the ass, since fireballs don't leave your hands until a couple seconds after casting, so even if I'm not getting hit, each attempt takes 30 fucking years. Which makes this a pretty good time to explain just how bad the difficulty setting being maxed actually is. Before the playthrough started, I made a default character and ran straight to the bandits just outside the tutorial. I gave myself 1 billion health and a bunch of swords just to see how long it would take to win a default melee fight, where we both hit each other until the screaming stops. By the time the fight ended, 20 minutes had passed, both of their weapons broke, and I went through 5 iron longswords. 5 iron longswords died before 2 bandits in fur armor. When the going gets tough, I'm fucked. After hearing that, Paul got really excited about his next suicide attempt, which was a little worrying. I eventually discovered that I could use the corner on the other side of the walkway as a RuneScape safe spot, which worked perfectly until it didn't. And that's when it happened. Paul wasn't excited about his suicide attempt, he was excited to show me his new strategy to kill the Scab Man. If you get him into the narrow walkway and then stand on the platform above the big hole, he'll run off the edge and kill himself, proving that the best way to kill someone isn't with a knife. It's by massaging their ambitions until you don't have to lift a finger. And I went straight to the top, tickled Lucifer's left testicle, and sent Hell back to where it came from. Hell. I told Sean Bean that he could have done that himself if he weren't weak and useless, and he agreed to come meet Jeff. I arrived just in time to hear a rumor about a strange door in Nibbin Bay, then discovered that Humans Against Monsters stole the big fucking necklace, and they'd have to pay for that. I took the boys to Big Temple Mountain just in time to be disruptive because I was bored. Fun was had by all, especially me. I wandered like a goblin around the coronation ceremony because I hate this stupid cutscene. This was around the time I realized that I accidentally left Perfect Paul's eyes blue. This wasn't an accident. It's canon that Paul's eyes turn blue when he only drinks water. I had the weirdest conversation ever at a bar.
Listen. Good.
Boris and I killed the basement man of the Boreal Valley so we could steal his pants and his book. But since neither of us know how to read, we had to bring the pants to the College of Winterhold to have them translated into sound. It turns out all pants come in pairs, so we'd have to find the 3 remaining volumes before they could be read. The first one was at the store, so I stole it. The second one was at a job interview, so I stole it. I brought all 4 of them to the government, and she told me that I'd have to stand still for a full 24 hours for it to work. So I did, and then I went to the big government tower at noon to continue my quest. After finding out where I'd have to go next, I paused the challenge to let the fake game begin. I wanted to join the arena and then get fired, because I'd never done it before. After joining, I stole all the armor from the wardrobe, then put them into the arena lockbox to make it look like an inside job. Then I signed up for a fight, got naked, started the fight, and then was disqualified for indecent exposure. I promised Arena Dad that I'd never do it again. Then I signed up for another fight and did it again, winning the fight instantly.
You blew it.
I turned in my uniform, then fast-traveled to Lumbridge to get to the Humans Against Monsters secret hideout. And once I got there, I was fucked. The thing I'm looking for, the mysterium xarxes... oh, fuck. The thing I'm looking for, the mysterium xarxes, is deep within this cave, and I have no way of getting there without being seen, and there's a lot of guys and tight, well-lit hallways both leading in and leading out. I tried a few times, then I took a break to prepare. I couldn't do it. Not like this. First, I joined the Mages Guild. Well, I tried to. As it turns out, I had a bounty on my head from that smooch I stole from the crispy boy back in Oblivion. So I turned myself in, became one of the near 2 million Americans in the prison system in the US, then I was able to join. Then, Mrs. Wizard Lady told me to go on an adventure. This was before I realized I wouldn't be able to do all of the recommendation quests, so I took the job she gave me. Kill an innocent woman who just wants to follow you down the road. I got to the inn where my mark was staying, which was when I realized how bad of an idea this was. I had to take a nap to progress the quest, and that would level me up, making everyone else stronger. But that didn't stop me. Once I wanted to do something, I did it. Except for the time that I wanted to do video game reviews, I actually wanted to make my first review on Vegas casino games because I wasn't 21 yet and I wanted to make a joke where I'd have to be accompanied by my mom to enter a casino. And the only person who wants to be seen with his mom at a casino is Batman, and I'm not wealthy enough to be Batman. And now I'm 28. So I took a big honkin' nap, leveled up my personality as a joke, then set off to commit the world's most narrow genocide. And that's when I saw her, innocently following me, probably thinking about how innocuous she was, or about all the crimes she didn't commit, all the people she didn't hurt. We did a little dance on the road so I could gain her trust, and to celebrate the orphans that depended on her. Then she confronted me. Then my social anxiety got the better of me. I saw a wayward battle mage charge her. I tried to protect her, but I just wasn't enough. I was scared stiffless. I couldn't stop wriggling in my seat as I watched this poor woman get devastated by circumstance and 2 wizards. Then I got hit by a wayward snowball, killing me instantly. After being vindicated, I went back to the Anvil Mages Guild to steal all their alchemical apparati for quick money. I bought a better healing spell to keep my whole count to a solid 5. Then I headed to Skingrad, since accepting the recommendation quest there nets you a better fireball spell than what I'm using. This actually turned out to be a fantastic decision, because, as my dad always said, the heat of your fireball is inversely proportional to the metaphorical catheter you stick up your ass that is Oblivion on the highest difficulty. He was forward-thinking enough to say that, even though he died in 2004. Then I went to the Imperial City Market to drop off all my stolen alchemy, and to buy potions. Having never shopped for potions in Oblivion, I was surprised at how expensive they were. In a normal playthrough, I'd at least have some thousands of gold saved up. I'd also not need potions since I'd fucking wear armor. All stocked up, I headed back to the Ham hideout. This is when Paul had the worst day of his life. First, I had to kill Sigmund the Gatekeeper. Surprisingly, this guy kills me in several hits instead of 2. But that doesn't make this much better. I have to run backwards, hurling fireballs at his feet while trying to keep my back from the wall so I can keep a distance. It only took a couple really long tries, but Sigmund fell like a feeble willow. And then everything got worse. The thing about destruction magic is it can't do sneak attacks. I can't stealthily kill someone at a distance before they spot me, and I can't kill someone without a lot of running, so I can't kill anyone in this hallway of a cave without fighting the entire cave. The plan, should I choose to improvise it, is to somehow get the mysterium xarxes while being chased, grab it, and get out of there alive, likely with a small army of hamsters at my back. Even worse, there are forks in the road on the way to the xarxes, so I don't even know where to go, and there's someone in the hallway who's guaranteed to catch me once I get close enough. It just fucking sucks. Step 1 was to find where the damn thing even is. I'd get spotted and have to run down paths until I eventually found one that wasn't a dead end. Thankfully, it didn't take that long. It's just the first door on the left, but I do need to get caught to get this far. From here, I can just brute force it, no matter how long it takes. My first time making it to the shrine, I managed to steal it. That just leaves me surrounded by a dozen people who can cast lightning that kills me in one hit. And like I said, I can't get here without getting caught first. My first several attempts set the stage for my strategy. I'd fire off my chameleon scroll, make it to the shrine, snatch the book, and run the fuck away. I did this for about an hour before making a discovery. I can actually kill the guy who catches me out of earshot of the people at the altar. Somehow, in spite of the screaming and the explosions, they can't hear me. The first time the bitch fell, I knew I was gangster. Then something weird happened. This guy didn't catch me, but it didn't stop him from catching me. Like, he would run up to me, stare in my direction, and just not do anything. He'd even follow me around, all the while never spotting me. Finally, after what can only be described as too much time, I finally made it out with the big book of fuck. And thankfully, they didn't keep chasing me for very long for some reason. Naked, tired, and afraid, I fast-traveled to Big Temple Mountain. I talked to Jeff, who told me to speak to Martin, who told me I should talk to Jeff, who says the mountains are alive with ham. I need to find the spy, who is somehow affecting Cloud Ruler Temple's many trigger warnings. So I got their attention, ran backwards, and then threw fireballs at the one that chased me. Then somehow I managed to kill the other one before I'd even found them. Stricken with the creep and crud, I'd imagine. Or perhaps flush flesh. Even though I was a doctor for 5 seconds in my Plague Inc. video, that doesn't make me in any way qualified to diagnose conditions on someone that I can't even prove ever existed. They didn't. It's a video game. I caught the Bruma guards at an awkward time. Punched a rat to death as a joke, then discovered that this person's basement leads straight to the wilderness, making his house just as dangerous as it is relevant. I gave the spies orders to Jeff. That's why I was in that house in the first place. I was obfuscating facts so that I could scare you into submission. And then Jeff told me to talk to Martin, who said we need a Daedric artifact. I could have chosen to find the path of least resistance and do an artifact quest that didn't involve combat, but if I'm good at anything, it's taking the direct approach instead of the right approach. I would pluck Azura's star from the sky, making it mine forever. So I stealthily made my way to the next giant fucking roadblock in this run, doing Azura's quest to kill several vampires in a tight enclosed space. So I flew to Gutted Mine to crinkle me some kindred. My first attempt was pretty successful, but I knew something had to change to make this work. So I debated it outside with fireballs, and then I let it outside to let the sun work its magic. It was a fantastic idea up until it didn't work. So I went back to my typical strategy, fireballs and running backwards. But I had an entire trick up my sleeve this time around. There were Daedra holes nearby that would be hostile to anyone who got close, including hate criminals who God told me to kill. Sometimes they'd ignore me and just go fight the Daedra. It's as if this is how the game was meant to be played. It worked perfectly until I ran out of Daedra. I instead led them back to the Shrine of Dibella. Since she wanted them dead, she could do it herself. It wasn't a very quick strategy, and in fact I hadn't even thought of it at this point, but one of the NPCs at the shrine is essential. He can't die, only be knocked unconscious. So as long as I stay alive, I can at least have a partner some of the time. The bitch fell, and I headed back to the quarry. I was using the map so I wouldn't walk straight into them, and eventually I sort of found them. They're behind this cracked board wall. The fireball's reach lets it hit them through the wall, and somehow they can't reach me. Their pathfinding is their prison. After 4 minutes, another problem arose. After I killed the first one, the second one started summoning. I obviously can't win a fair fight, and they're stuck behind the wall, unable to follow me outside. The problem solved itself when I went outside and they followed me anyway. I guess their ability to reach the door doesn't affect their ability to chase you through it. Fair enough, I guess. It took what might have been several years, but I finally killed the final vampire. And then I delicately plucked Meridia's wilted rose. I went back to Himpy Hill to talk to Sean Bean. He says the star looks really scary, and that I should talk to Captain Jeffers. Jeff Millman says that an Oblivion gate has opened near Bruma, and I need to stop it. When I reach the guard captain, I realize how much I like the Bruma guard shields. They look like the flag of the Austrian Empire they stopped using back in 1867. Captain McMahon says he won't let me close the smelly door unless he gets to watch. I graciously agree, ready to leave him behind when the going gets going. It was pretty uneventful overall. The only thing of note is that since Knight Captain Durga is essential, and also buffed by the difficulty being super high, he's more qualified to close the door than I am, which is really frustrating if you're really frustrated about that sort of thing. Then I made it to the end. The end. I talked to Jeff, who told me to talk to Martin. I did courtyard crunches until they made me stronger. Then I went to go talk to Martin, who fucking told me to talk to Jeff. Jeff says God's bones are in a big shitty hole in the ground and that I'm going there. So I fast traveled to the closest place to God's little space and then moseyed on over. This dog died, just like mine did. Raymond, play the footage.
I heard my dog bumping into my door at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I let him in. And he walks forward as if drunk. And then he laid down next to my bed and fucking died.
Eventually, and only eventually, I made it to Sanker Tor. More like Sanker Tor, cause I fucking hated it. Somehow, I hate it for being just as long, but also more engaging. The enemies here are mostly shitty ghosts. They attack slowly and move slowly, so I'm never in danger of being hit. I've literally never been safer in an encounter that I'm forced to fight in, and something about that makes me feel really dissatisfied. Like, I can at least say it was hard, but I figured out a way to deal with it, with like any other fight that takes this long, and we'll get to it. I have no footage to even show you of this place, cause it was easy and nothing happened. Tell the ghosts to get back to work, grab God's t-shirt, go back to Cloudfucker Temple, tell Martin that you're dissatisfied with your current relationship, slap some books off the shelf as a prank, then enter Miskarkand to find the biggest rock in the universe. Miskarkand was actually cool sometimes. I couldn't stand my own in a fight, but I didn't really have to. The required fights mostly amounted to me luring one enemy into a different enemy faction, and they'd fuck each other up before I had to. Otherwise, it was me luring the world's slowest fucking zombies that had way too much health and one-shot me into big empty rooms so I could circle strafe them for 10 minutes. I can't win. I can't enjoy the game for too long. Even the stone wasn't as big as I wanted it to be. I eventually made my way outside, and when I got there, I wasn't able to fast travel because some enemy was allegedly nearby. When this happens, I normally just find the nearest town, Skingrad, and run towards it, attempting to wait until it eventually works. Not this time. I managed to run the entire way back to Skingrad, where I met a sheep that was just hanging out, so I decided to hang out with it. Glarthir decided to be a third wheel, and I think that ruined the mood. A venomous depression entered my heart and whispered a poem that I had to choose whether I wanted it engraved onto my skin or painted on my walls. Even after I entered the city, the game was still saying there was an enemy nearby. I actually don't know why. The only thing I can think of is that when I stole the big rock of disappointment, a lich that I didn't feel like fighting wakes up and I immediately ran away. Maybe because that's like a pitched battle that starts and ends with you, it just sort of aggroes and doesn't let up until it dies. Then, after slapping Blammo the baker's house for 15 minutes, he let up. My grim psychology scared him off. Sean Bean, because he needs to soak up all the attention, wants to open a really big door right outside Bruma, just to see what happens. Jeff says it'll be dangerous, Sean Bean says he's his husband, not his employee, and we set off to kill a town. I headed to Castle Gasselstone, spoke with the Lady of the Chair, promised to rally troops from every city in the world, didn't, and we knocked on heaven's door. I helped Sean Bean spread Christmas cheer since I knew I'd be spending it alone again.
I wish we had more. 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 I basically just watched everyone fight. I could do literally nothing to help, and there's more than a few essential characters accompanied by soldiers who could hold their own by sheer numbers for a little while. You can really tell why the game doesn't have a lot of high body count fights. Since everyone gets more than 20 feet apart, they get out of combat once they kill something, and they start doing the little barks they do when you run past them. Someone's been murdered!
There's so many casual conversations that are masking the epic battle music that it's the most Oblivion shit ever. I love this game. Also, I got so much good footage of this stupid battle that I can't use. I felt like I was actually having fun for the first time in a long time, even though I died a bunch from fucking around too much. This is probably my favorite part of the run, which is good, because I'll need that serotonin for that part that we'll get to. The battle was taking forever, so I just started to loot all the money and shoes from dead people, even though the fighting hadn't stopped yet. Even Boris wasn't safe. The biggest fucking hole started opening her stupid fucking lips, and I made it to the biggest hell so far, and we've only got 15 minutes. It was easy. It's just climbing towers to get to the sigil tower, followed by a really short sigil tower. I got swatted by the Dimpy, which doesn't do any damage, said goodbye to Captain Bird, and Martin told us who won.
We won.
I said goodbye to the true hero, the police, and returned to Cloud. I got there well ahead of Sean Bean, proving that he doesn't actually fast travel there with you once you show him to Jeff. You were just having a psychotic episode. I slapped Martin really hard between the shoulder blades, then ran to another dimension where I couldn't be held responsible, and arrived in Sanker Cameron's Avatar of the Filth. I don't remember it being snowy though, that's weird. After deliberately running past every encounter, I found the flooded grotto, which is weird, cause I'm pretty sure grottos are always flooded. Inside, everybody was naked from the waist up, and they had to pay for that. Then I learned that they're in purgatory and get killed over and over again as punishment. My work here was done before I'd even gotten started, so I started swinging. After way too long, I killed one and stole his pants. If you're gonna be naked, you're gonna do it right. Up ahead, I saw 2 Clanfear runts. No way around it, they'd have to die. I got their attention, then RuneScape safe spotted them for 5 entire minutes. Further ahead in the cave, I found the entrance to the Forbidden Grotto. It had the thing from the box art glowing on it, so it was probably more important than me, but it wouldn't open no matter how hard I hit the E key once and left. Turns out, the guy that I killed to death got over it and smacked me silly, ensuring he'd be trapped here forever. Once outside, I discovered that on my quest to engage with as little content as possible, I'd missed something. This Daedra says he knows me from Ganona. I say I hardly knowna, and he tells me that I can't progress until I kill him or help him. So I promised to help, and then shot him in the back until I died. I tried a couple more times, then decided that helping him was probably easier. It was the single easiest objective I've ever had to complete in the game so far, but I had to pay a high cost for a low price. The key to unlocking the door was equipping an item. I lost to a fucking door. Once inside the door, I immediately got my ass kicked. It's another get the book from the ham section. Run through 10 times, eventually find where to go, and die every time. But it was worse than that. The ham hideout was mostly me knowing exactly what to do from my save point, followed by me just loading over and over again until I was done. And I got to choose when shit happened. But once I'm in the Savage Grotto, I'm in combat, and there's no way to get out of combat. If you like to jackhammer pipe cleaners down your urethra until it's so calloused that you've got a permanent erection, you'd like the Savage Grotto on max difficulty. A fucked up amount of time was spent dying to this one jump. I'm so intimately aware that being under magma is the same thing as being underwater, but with a red filter instead of a blue one, that I've actually shifted my beliefs, and now I hate all forms of asset reuse. Which is to say that I've never liked any of this game's voice actors, starting right now. Also, this happened. Most of my runs went like this. I don't have anything to include for this in this video. I have no way of saying I moved at the speed of 10 feet per lifetime for a half hour, for more time than I've already wasted. But guess what? After a half hour, I found the door. The moment I saw it through the fog, I had to save, because we've gotten to it. I juked back around and made it on top of this column. In order to move forward, I needed to kill 1 hamster, 1 Zivilai, and 4 Clanfears. I had to kill the hamster first because he was a caster, which took 3 minutes. Now it was me against some melee creatures. But sometimes they teleport and take me back to my last save. Now, what do you think was the final time for this one particular obstacle? 48 minutes and 10 seconds. Standing on top of this rock, shooting downward, and then waiting for my magicka to refill. This is it. This is the worst singular part of this entire run. Juking enemies in the first Oblivion portal was manageable. Dying in the same spot to get the mysterium xarxes took a while, but the fact that it was just so disengaging because there wasn't even a strategy just sort of made it feel like it took less time. But I was actually surprised at how this only took 48 minutes. It felt like it took forever. It's like an abusive girlfriend or a shitty job. It's one of the markers on a ruler that measures an entire lifetime. Paul spent less time in prison. He spent less time in Oblivion. He spent about the same amount of time outside. And that's tragic. 8 minutes in, and I finally killed the Zivilai. Around 13 minutes in, I tried a different spot to see if it stops them from teleporting up to me. Not only do none of the spots stop them from teleporting, the first spot was the one where they teleported the least. I don't even want to say that I got lucky enough to have gotten it on the first try, since I still tried all of them. I'm gonna stop being negative now and just say that when I killed the last clan fear, my bloodshot eyes ached to the rhythm of my heartbeat, and I felt this cold wave of relief wash over my body that I can only describe as the relief you feel when you finally die. Finding that guy again so he can unlock the door felt like a religious experience, and it feels like it was framed to be that way. This feeling honestly harkens back to my World of Warcraft days from over a decade ago, hunting down a Blood Elf bandit mask on Azure Mist Isle, occasionally running into the same Horde player that I couldn't talk to, finally seeing him again randomly and just feeling a lost part of me pushed back in like a wet piece of clay. I don't know what I'm talking about. I got back to the door and I finally got to look at something else. I suddenly never felt more satisfied. Like, holy shit, Oblivion has never felt this good before. But life isn't fair. The upcoming event is the battle against Sanker Tor and Macaren, leader of the Humans Against Monsters cult, and architect of the Siege of Kvatch. When the fight starts, he's flanked by his two childer, Ravetro and Grilbis. I thought that I'd be clever by dividing and conquering. Before the fight starts, I met his seed in the garden outside of his chamber. Since they were out here and he was in there, I could kill them before the fight starts, and turn it into more of a 2v2 instead of the 3v1 that it is when my helper gets KO'd in one shot. His dafter said that I didn't expect to see her again, but I'm one step ahead of her by not knowing who she was in the first place. Then I threw a fireball at her fucking hips and started running backwards. So the rub here is that Boyman is a warrior tanky type, and Grillburger is Wizardo with spells and such. Or maybe it's the other way around. I don't use they/them pronouns because I know what I'm doing. And the guy who follows me around can tank maybe one hit, provided it's not one of the girl's spells. So it's a 2v1 against a caster who two-shots me and a warrior who two-shots me. And Warrior McMahon uses healing spells, which is like getting run over by a car while it gets run over by a car. I can't even feel disgust anymore. The only thing I've got going for me is that I can usually fight them separately, provided the Adderall shortage is still ongoing. And they stop paying attention to the stranger throwing explosions at their sibling. Most runs only lasted about several seconds, but I can happily say that it only took me about 15 minutes to kill the happy tree friends. But death didn't stop them from following me inside. This was the most disappointed I'd ever felt. So, the thing about Cameron being an immortal that makes other people immortal is that he does a pretty good job. His children respawn infinitely, so they have to be included in the fight, no matter how many times you kill them. I was so close to relapsing that I can still smell alcohol on my breath. Most runs went like this. So, what are we looking at here? 2 casters, a warrior, and a summon minion. If I get hit with any health missing, I die. If my partner gets hit, he dies. We collectively share 3 hits between the 2 of us. Meanwhile, it'll take dozens, if not at least 100 shots to kill Cameron, while also dodging the attacks of 3 other people in this small room. Most people would hear that and give up, but not me. I spent another half hour throwing myself at this fight, knowing that eventually, even if it felt shitty and not worth the effort, I would just win. Then I started noticing something. Sometimes, when my fireballs land, I take fire damage. That happened often enough that it definitely wasn't a coincidence, so I looked up Sanker Tor on the wiki. He has a 32% reflect damage buff, meaning that I'll take 32% of all the melee damage I deal with him, even though melee was already out of the question, so whatever, but more importantly, a 25% reflect spell buff. This does not mean that I automatically take 25% of damage dealt from all my spells. It means that 25% of my spells bounce back at 100% strength. So I'd need to hit him, let's say 100 times, and then I'd need to survive 25 of my spells while also never getting hit by the other 3 people in the room. This calls for more advanced strategies.
We have a winner!
There was nothing else I could do. Martin forgot all about that thing I did. I started punching High Chancellor Okado. The world was coming to a close, and I got so excited that I just couldn't help myself. We were immediately attacked by Dudra. Nothing else to say except that you get the elusive still alive fail state after Martin dies. Also, if you leave before killing the Daedra, Martin dies instantly, but so does Chancellor Okado. I'm under the impression that because you're supposed to escort Martin instead of abandoning him, everyone in that cell dies instantly if you leave, thus killing Martin. And what I'm trying to say is I fucked around a lot during this part. After failing, I let Martin enter before me, but Okado has to talk to me before the final battle can begin, so he walks right past Martin to ask me where Martin is. I love this game. Okado's incessant nodding tells me that he's technically saying this to me instead of the Legionnaire, which makes me wonder how the NPC conversations are programmed. Martin died immediately this time around. I forgot to mention that he dies in 3 hits, while the Daedra die in minutes of concentrated fire. I obviously can't just channel the aggro on myself because I die faster than he does. This whole fight just sucks ass. At least if it were a pure no-hit run, I would turn the difficulty down and kill everybody in 2 hits. I said that a lot throughout the entire playthrough, but I really mean it here. I never thought about how much worse this challenge gets when it all hinges on someone else not dying. I can save spot for myself, but I can't make Martin save spot, so he just runs headfirst into enemies because all NPCs do that during combat. Enough bitching. 11.5 minutes into this recording, we finally made it outside. I immediately thought, okay, cool, I remember this being a walk in the park to the final cutscene. I rarely ever complete Oblivion. I usually just do dumb shit and ignore the main quest. I had no frame of reference for this part being hard, but it was. We're outmuscled and outnumbered, largely by enemies that used ranged spell attacks. It's not super hard to dodge them, so I was mainly just acting as a decoy while everyone else did the actual fighting, which surprisingly worked. I have complicated feelings on the gameplay in this run that I'll get to in the postmortem, but for now it's beginning to feel like actual gameplay, not cheating for an hour. Paul thought his ambrosia looked kinda sus, and I got killed by Spell Reflect for the first time. Then, when all hope seemed lost, I saw a man who looked ready to give me several hugs. We ran past, it was easy. Then, just as all hope seemed lost again, the universe realized that Sean Bean's name should have rhymed all along, and he had to pay for that. A man with too many hugs duked it out with the hugless, while I stood still as backup. The hugless prevailed, as usual, but my quest, the only quest that truly mattered, still raged on. I fast-traveled to Bruma, found a statue that slandered my nude form, then punished it by demonstrating to it the sweet release of death, only to deprive it the stillness of bliss, and tried to make it my bride. I used the sex change console command, and the game crashed. And just like that, I successfully failed to beat Oblivion on the highest possible difficulty without equipping anything at all. Because of a fucking door, and a family of 3 that's permanently trapped in an afterlife that they created. But what does the dentometer have to say about this challenge run? Gentle floss. This run sucked. So calling this challenge run difficult is like saying the word relógio is just a prank that Brazilians are pulling on Dole Foods for what they did to the government, which is to say that yeah, it was challenging, but overcoming that challenge was in no way fulfilling. It was mostly just waiting or getting lucky, which means that inevitably, you will win. Like, the only fun part about the entire run was escorting Martin to the Temple of the One at the end, and that was just because me being super weak compared to everything else didn't stop the game from having actual gameplay. Like, sure, I wasn't killing anything on my own, but stopping Martin from getting hit, while also the shots coming at me were super dodgeable, made it feel like a video game. It suddenly had gameplay. And then the other part that was kind of fun was the vampires, because it was like solving a puzzle. It was problem solving. So by incorporating gameplay mechanics and problem solving into the gameplay, it felt like a video game, and I kind of enjoyed it. So in hindsight, I could have just bought the Mage Tallow candles, and then you can just make your own spells at Frostcrag Spire. That was the reason that I joined the Mages Guild in the first place, but I stopped because I remembered the Skingrad recommendation quest, because that one requires you to kill like 10 zombies, and that wouldn't have saved me any time whatsoever. But then I remembered the Skingrad recommendation quest, which gives you a free fireball spell that's just Flare, except better in literally every way. In summary, I did not have fun. The only parts that I enjoyed were fun by comparison. It's like being on fire while also being without skin, or just being on fire. I liked the parts where I was merely on fire, which were still awful, and I hated it. But I'm glad I did it, because I did it for Paul of Mitten Squad. But don't praise my tenacity and charity just yet. This video took me a full year to make, and that's not a joke. Paul got out of the hospital in like November of 2022, and now I'm 29. So how did that happen? Okay, so I want to just say that the Adderall shortage is still ongoing, because it is, and that sucks, but it's actually totally my fault. So I made that promise at the beginning of the video that I was just gonna fucking do it. I'm just gonna make a video. I'm gonna record it, edit it, put a diaper on, and then I'm just gonna finish the video without ever stopping for anything ever. So I said that at like 8:30 at night, and that's fine, but then I stopped at like noon, and on the in-between, I had like 6 caps of Kratom, 2 energy drinks, and I was using ADHD medication to replace sleep. So by the time it was noon, I needed to take a fucking break. And when I came to after that break, looking at the Oblivion footage made me feel sick. And so I had to edit it bit by bit, little by little, piece by piece, until eventually I just wasn't editing anymore, and then I eventually got it done, and that's why this happened. So no, it's totally my fault. And I didn't have fun editing either. This whole thing was just a fucking wreck. And for anyone wondering, no, I'm not still wearing the diaper. However, Paul has not issued a public statement saying that he took his off. So until that ends up in my mailbox, we'll just call the whole video a success. That's how it works. I don't make the rules, they're improvised. So I guess the last question to answer is, why did I commit myself to make a video committed to Paul of Mitten Squad that required me to do such a horrible thing to my body and soul? That's because a few years ago, my dog died, and it really fucked me up. Like I was emotionally folded in half like a contact lens. And I remembered Paul making jokes about his dead dog, and my withering mind harkened back to his challenge videos. And a lot of the time I spent pulling myself back together, I was watching Mitten Squad videos, and that helped a lot, and it was awesome and cool. I guess I just wanted to make that kind of positive change. This sounds really cheesy, but I just wanted to make that kind of positive change in the world. Like, I don't know if Paul's gonna watch this. I don't want to just send it to his Discord or something, because that feels really shitty no matter how well-intentioned it is. I think I'm just gonna @ him on Twitter when I announce this. But I really do hope that Paul is doing better, and his recent community post says that he's kind of doing better a little bit, like in the sense that he isn't fucking dead at all. But regardless, I just wanted to do a good thing like what Paul had done for me, incidentally. So thank you, Paul. You're super amazing and cool, and your videos are awesome, and they mean a lot to me, so I just hope that you're okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching, especially if you got this far, because apparently that never happens. I'm gonna go to bed. Goodbye, everyone.